All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome today to our industry leadership interview with Andrew. And just want to say thanks for everyone to be here. Whenever we do these webinars, I'm just so thrilled that we can not just share these ideas, but just do it in a simple way. You know, my office is up here and my warehouse is over here. And literally, it's got a little corner there that we can just share some ideas, and certainly saves me from traveling. Not that we can do that with COVID and all the things that are happening at the moment. But today's discussion, I'm really excited about, not just because Andrew and I have known each other for well, quite a good number of years, but the interesting thing about being a business owner is that we often in business just get stuck into what we do. We obviously make our monthly budgets, our annual budgets, hopefully provide for our families. But we often have to think about the future. And so I remember somebody saying to me, Pete, what's your exit plan? And I thought, I have no exit plan from PestIT. I love my company. I love what I do, and I'm still quite young. Well, I was at the time. And so the interesting thing is it's all about, coming up with a strategy, working out what your plan is, depending on the stage of life that you're in, or maybe investment needed into your business, or you'd like to go part-time, or of course you're hitting retirement. So today's discussion is really interesting, not just because I know Andrew has got not just some significant expertise, he's probably at the pinnacle of our industry in being involved in mergers and acquisitions. I just think it's a great thing for us all to be thinking about, not just for our short term in terms of strategies, but for the long term in where we all want to be and how we're going to get there. All right, so from Andrew's perspective, actually, Andrew and I were chatting before we started off, but I can't remember when we first met, but it has to be 10 or more years ago.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew was the financial controller of Australia's largest pest control business at the time, and later became the general manager. And obviously was heavily involved in some significant mergers and acquisitions, obviously both involved in the purchase or the merger with ISS, Amalgamated Pest Control, and of course, probably 20 or so other acquisitions with Flick Pest Control. So Andrew, welcome today.
Thank you.
And Andrew, if you'll pick up from the accent, South African, and but as a chartered accountant, obviously working hard over there, and then coming over to be with us here in Australia. And of course, just getting involved in the pest control industry. It's probably not the first thing that a chartered accountant thinks of, I guess.
No, I've probably had quite a vast career. My M&A actually spans back in South Africa. I used to buy fruit farms,
okay,
and fruit packing facilities.
Yeah.
So it goes back as far as actually selling off my own business in South Africa.
Okay.
And buying some here. So yeah, I just remember that while you were introducing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Actually, and even just meeting the crew from Eagle Eye in Stellenbosch and their work with Eagle Eyes, we're off topic straight away, but their work with Eagle Eyes, they used to talk to me about all the different fruit packing companies. So I could probably rattle off some names that you would well know. But anyway, so we've digressed already, but let's get started. So talking about mergers and acquisitions, and the interesting thing is, I guess we all just need to see, is there a concept or a different term that we need to look at when we're talking about mergers and acquisitions?
Well, definitely, like a merger, obviously, as the word describes, it's coming together of two businesses, and typically to form a bigger business. So it's really, truly value in mind of saying, let's bring these businesses together, take the best part out of it, and create one bigger, better business.
Yeah.
Acquisition, on the flip side, it's really, I don't want to be crude, but one business swallowing another business. And that is, you're buying a business for various reasons. There's many reasons that you can buy a business, but typically they will follow your systems, your processes, and they will report in your manner. So it is a takeover. You could probably talk about takeovers versus mergers in a similar manner. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I guess even the same discussion that, you as a chartered accountant, you came to Australia, and there's a lot of interest in pest control in Australia, but literally, why is there so much interest in acquiring pest control businesses in Australia?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if people know, but the market itself is about $1 billion. So it's a massive market. And I think when you compare us with the US market, I think they $7, $8, $9 billion. So when you're talking about $1 billion worth of revenue and you're talking about an industry that typically gets a really good return on investment, you have something that's quite attractive. Added to that in addition is it's quite a defragmented business or industry. So in other words, there's a lot of PCOs out there. I think last counted something like 3,000 plus PCOs.
Yeah. Okay.
So someone consolidating the market in any market is an opportunity, I think. And,
yeah. Okay.
And then obviously, sorry, Pete, but we also have, we have common pests. So we have termites. It's a great industry. We have a great summer. It ticks all the boxes, to be honest.
Well, that probably leads on to the next question I had in mind: is why do larger organisations or investors want to acquire pest control businesses?
Yeah, it's a great return. So look, if you've got money in the bank, you'll know you're only earning 1% or 0% at the moment. So there's almost no point in having money at the bank. You can borrow at 3%. A typical pest control company, and this is my accountant side of me talking, obviously, a typical pest control company, you're going to get a return 15% plus. So, anyone out there, you just do the math, 15% minus 3% debt, you're still better off. It really is as simple as that.
Okay. All right. So some of the guys and girls that are here in our audience, and I must admit, actually, one of the things I didn't mention for those of you who are just here listening to Andrew and myself, I think we just took off and got started. But I would say, obviously, I can't tell you where your exits are and anything like that from a safety perspective. But I did actually forget to say that if you're just wanting to ask a question, you've got a chat function there. If you just press the chat function, ask the question, we can answer it either during our discussion today, or I can answer it towards the end. If you do raise your hand, that's really asking me to unmute you. But I must admit, it's probably best if everyone stays muted and then just ask questions through the chat function. So there you go. Anyway, just thinking about the guys and the girls that are here in terms of probably business owners. I mean, why should these business owners consider selling their business?
Yeah, again, good questions. But look, most people, it's coming to retirement time. So you've enjoyed the industry, you've made good money, you've had a great lifestyle. Let's be honest. You're coming to retirement, you're not really prepared. That's where a lot of it exits. The other thing that I've seen quite a bit of is people are tired. You will know, and I know as well, you get, in all honesty, you get frustrated, you get tired, you own your own business, you're running 6 to 7 days a week if you're lucky. It's at night. It is your business. It never stops. And that the problem is you, the one that's responsible, staffing, clients, everything is a headache.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times people do get burnt out and they just need a break. They need to get away from the business, but it's either that or it's retirement.
Yep.
So you do need an exit strategy. Otherwise, I have heard people literally they want to just close the doors, and that's quite sad.
And it becomes a fire sale at that point because there's no preparation, there's no effort, or it's just a hope to get out. Yeah. Okay. And so what, I guess, for the business owners that are here today, what are some of the preparatory steps that they should be putting in place now in order to be ready and also to be attractive for an acquisition to take place?
Yeah, so a strong brand and a solid business. So a good reputation, strong brand. Simple things like making sure you're getting good reviews online. A lot of people are looking at online presences now, making sure that there's a trace that people can see you're a quality business at the end of the day. Still believe as an accountant, a lot of it comes back to numbers. So it comes back to your finances. Work with your accountant, make sure your books are clean, or if they're not as clean as they should be, that you can identify things very clearly. So you can show a business that's a genuine business. I think, if you're a sizable business and you're looking at the big guys to buy from or to sell to, it's a numbers game out there, in all honesty. So, retention rates, you need to be able to prove a lot of what you have. So, working in databases, retention rates, the quality of the information, it all comes down to that. But numbers, your finances, it's always going to be number one. So
okay. And actually, just when you were in the national business previously, what brought companies onto your radar? Obviously the last thing one thing you'd like to see is obviously people trying to sell their business or pimp out their business because you know that you've got them at a time that they're ready. But what was it that actually brought businesses to your attention?
A lot of the times a business owner would approach, which obviously is not the best.
Yeah.
Because you're on the back foot already. So you're up for sale, you want it out. And I must say, the thing that springs to mind that someone always remembers, once you're in that process, a lot of people, they sell mentally before they've even got a check in their hand. And that's quite dangerous. So yeah. I'm not sure whether we're going to cover that, but I think that's something you need to bear in mind. But a lot of what I saw was people approaching, on their own, not even through an accountant. Occasionally we had a business advisor. But it would be, I've literally had, a P&L slipped under the door of my office where someone wanted to sell a business. And that's not the best approach of trying to sell a business. That says, I'm not ready, I'm not prepared. I just want out almost.
Yeah. Okay. And let's talk about the values of business. We also look at the differences in values. So let's just look at, commercial and contract and domestic market. How do we value a business and what are the important aspects of those elements of a business?
Yeah, everyone wants to know how much is my business worth? It's like the number one question I get. Look, that's as long as a piece of string. In all honesty, it depends on where the wind's blowing. But look, commercial by the larger players is valued higher. That's a fact, and that's deemed to be less riskier than a residential business. And so typically they're looking for a contractor. They try to hold a commercial customer under contract, but it gives you that longevity. So in other words, if they've invested $100, at least they know they're going to get $30 for the next 3 years, so to speak, and they're going to get their money back. In saying that, like I've mentioned to Pete, I've had a client who had a better retention rate on a residential business than I've seen in any commercial business. Yeah. So and he called himself, well, he didn't call himself an ad hoc business, but he was an ad hoc business. But in all honesty, his retention rate, he was such a quality business that he was valued at pretty much a standard of a commercial business. Right. So there are circumstances where that mindset doesn't really kick in. And I think it comes back to being able to prove your retention rates, I've had this client, I think he had clients, for 30 odd years. They weren't going anywhere as long as someone doesn't stuff it up. Yeah. And that comes back to your quality of business. Now, when you're valuing a business, in all honesty, the number one probably is the size. A $5 million business, and when I'm talking 5 million, it's turnover, that's going to be valued much higher than a guy that's got a $500,000 business. Yes. And that's just reality. He's more attractive. His business is more stable. He's got staff. There's much less risk based on the ownership and the guy who runs it. And that's just the reality of life. So you're not going to get the same multiples. You're not going to get the same price. How will people value it? Profit. It comes back to numbers. In reality, I don't believe any of the other bullshit stands. Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, you're right.
But you have to be profitable because someone is going to invest money. They expect a return, and it comes back to what are you going to do with money in the bank? You expect a return on it. So, are you profitable? Are you a growing business? Is your revenue is it strong? Is it sticky? Is it staying with you? What are the quality of your assets? Are you running decent vehicles? How's the quality of your staff? Their training? You can go so far as inquiries into the industry about your name in the industry. So I can go to any of the suppliers and I can say, listen, do you know this XY pest control company? What's he like? Does he pay his bills? Do you know what I mean? Like you get a great reputation or you get a bad reputation. So there's many factors, and I know people bounce around 1-to-1 multiples, 50 cents to the dollar.
It's all going to be different, isn't it?
It's going to be different. Everyone is unique, in all honesty.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you might find all around Australia. Quite often it'll be a small business that just happens to snag a quality brand in the commercial sector, or they might be, they might have, a linkage with one of the national, restaurant chains or a supermarket just in a particular area. And all of a sudden they're up on the radar of a national business because that's important business for the national businesses to try and replicate across the country. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of reasons why that value elevates. Yeah,
it can very much be that you want to get into a service stream. I mean, when I ran this ex company, we didn't know anything about pre-con. So that was a focus, and we realized the value of pre-con, the value of post-con after it. Suddenly you have to go and acquire the expertise of pre-con. And you're looking in that direction to say, hang on, who's the best player in this space? Let's go after them. Let's get the best. And that could be the 500,000, or it could be the $5 million business.
Okay. So looking at from an acquisition perspective, or the acquirer of smaller businesses, what are they actually looking for? What are they interested in? But also, what are they not interested in when it comes to their acquisition?
Well, again, like I've said, they're interested in a quality business. So I think reputation is important. For me, when I was on the buying side, I always look to see, why does someone want to sell? That to me is the most important. There have been, and everyone knows, certain instances in this industry where people have sold and then they want to reopen a year later.
Kick off in 2 years' time.
Yeah, correct. I've actually heard a story about in a different country, in Indonesia, where someone bought a business that didn't actually exist, to be honest. So they had completely, everything was fictitious.
All right.
But I think the reason for selling is probably the most, the reason for selling is probably the most important. And there's nothing like looking someone in the eyes and actually seeing that they're tired, or, you know, they're ready for retirement. After that, it's numbers. It's really about the P&L. It's about how you're growing. Are you actually shrinking? You know, which way is your curve going? You're going up, you're going down. Are you profitable? Do you meet industry standards in terms of your profitability? And I'm coming back to your staff. You know, how long have they been with you? Are they properly trained? Are they doing a quality job? What do your assets look like?
Yeah.
That really makes up, you know, your service mix. You know, if you're just doing termite treatments, you know, that could deem to be one-off. So you might make shitloads of money in this year, but you're not going to make it next year unless you get them again. Those are the factors I think that they're very much interested in. What makes all that up? What wouldn't I care about? I don't care about your tax problems, to be honest. Like if you've bought a case of beer for yourself or your house and you run it through the business, doesn't interest me. You know, everyone does these things in private business. You really typically buy a business as an asset deal. You don't really take on someone else's, I don't want to say problems, but someone else's tax practices, I'm going to call it. You know, you won't buy debt. So if you have a business that's loaded with debt, honestly, that's your problem. You need to sort that out yourself as part of this deal and as part of that. So very rarely, well, I've probably never seen anyone take on someone's debt. It's just too much of a headache, I think.
Well, and that's one of those things. The interesting thing about a lot of small businesses, and sometimes that acquisition process also happens at a time where that business probably needs greater investment in order to grow. I mean, we all could obviously grow with greater investment, but there are certain areas that pest managers get into, be it happen to literally snag that national a national brand in commercial or whatever it might be, and that can just be a tremendous, you know, leap forward, I suppose. And so if that works for both companies, that's what it all comes down to. Now, one of the things I didn't mention too in our introduction is that you presented at last year's or a recent Rapid Solutions Conference. I must admit, I've lost track of the years, but you have a presentation that you will share with everyone that's here. So we always try to follow up everyone after coming to our sessions. But in that presentation, I saw your mergers and acquisitions process map. So everyone will get that later on this week. But just explain a little bit about your merger and acquisitions process map.
Yeah, look, for me, the whole process seems to be very similar to, I call it marriage or dating. I used to call where I did a deal with a certain individual. I felt like I was dating with him, in all honesty. I spoke to him more times than I spoke to my wife in a day. And it starts off, you know, great. You're all friends. You're having coffees, you're having lunches, you're having dinners. You're just talking about the possibility, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get in and, you know, you share a little bit of information. It's normally a P&L or maybe a little bit of other information to get an offer. So you get an offer from them. Maybe it's okay. You kind of go, okay, I can keep talking to this person. And that's when you start getting into the nuts and bolts. So you get into, you know, due diligence. You open up your books. And that's really, you know, everyone's looking under the hood there to see what they can find and make sure everything's genuine. I've never conducted a due diligence, and I don't think anyone really does, to look for the evil. I think it's really a verification process. But that can be quite tedious. So that can actually start upsetting you if it goes on too long. You know, and maybe they ask a few too many questions, and that's where, you know, the relationship starts to get to that, you know, 6 month of dating period when, you know, when the truth starts to come out.
Yeah.
From there, then it can, you know, so you get through due diligence, and then the legal start, and
Yes.
this is an interesting time because, you know, lawyers are lawyers, and you know, you have to have a lawyer. I would always say make sure you have a good lawyer in your pocket because you need them. But some of them can be very good and very commercially minded, but others can just be, I'm better than you. And then they send emails that you keep paying for to each other backwards and forwards. And you sit in your office watching these emails, getting frustrated because you know it's costing you more money. And eventually that can become, you know, a little bit of a, you know, I'm stronger or bigger than you and I'm more powerful, as opposed to sitting down and talking. And I found a lot of the instances just talking, you know, the owners putting the lawyers aside and actually having a conversation with each other works a lot better than that.
Yep.
But from there, you know, if you can get through due diligence, you can get through the legal stage and get to the end, I think that's what you've got to focus on. And I'll just raise, there is something called deal fatigue. That's a real thing in the M&A world. And you've got to be mindful of, because you can get a deal done in a month, or you can literally go on for 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. And in business, and business stages change. And all of a sudden, if it draws out for too long, the acquirer or the acquiree could just hit different stages and just, forget it. It's over.
Correct. And that's why, like, in all honesty, with people that I work with, it's very much about, it's your business, like literally until someone gives you a check in your hand. And I've seen it, you can see it in people's faces, their body language. They sell, you know, I'm buying that yacht and my new holiday home, you know, 2 months into the deal, and the guys haven't even started due diligence. So it's such an important factor. There's two factors. One is, that's the first. The second is, have a plan afterwards, I think. Because if you don't have a plan, then you're lost. And I know we'll come to that, but it's quite a process, many parties, but you need a good accountant, you need a good lawyer.
Absolutely.
And when I say a good lawyer, a commercially minded lawyer.
And someone that's going to be positive to the process rather than detrimental. Absolutely. Okay. So thinking about it, expected outcome. So I'm a business owner. What should I be looking for in terms of obviously upfront payments or earnouts, assets and shares, and obviously we've got to look at non-compete clauses and so on. So what's the expected outcomes? How do we get to this point?
Yeah, that's, again, another good question. So let's deal with non-compete. Obviously, someone's going to buy a business, they want to lock you out. I mean, you're a risk. So when you're a smaller business, you know, you've got personal relationships with people. You are the man, so to speak. You're Johnny on the spot. And those relationships are very tight. Those people trust you. They love you in most cases, you know. So you want to protect yourself. So look, you're looking at a 3 to 5 year lockout period. The way the legal system works, and the way I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer by any means, but they work from a 5 year, and then it steps down. So 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, or 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. And that's just to ensure they protect the asset. And in my view, that's everyone's right. Like, I believe that. Then in terms of upfront versus earnout, or what they call retention money, you want as much as possible upfront. Everyone wants as much as possible. Again, every deal will be different. Your business is different to the guy next to you. You might get 50% upfront, or you might get 80% upfront.
Right.
There should always be something on the table called a retention. So the retention money is typically, you get paid after 12 months. And if I can put it in really simple terms, it's just to prove that you haven't lied to anyone. So you are telling the truth. All your numbers stack up. You haven't broken any laws. And nothing's going to come bite the buyer in the arse, so to speak, that they need to make a claim against you. So that's almost, dare I say, it's secure money, as long as you pretty much standard and ethical business. You just don't have the money. An earnout, and I know a lot of people have a negative connotation towards an earnout. I'm pretty much a little bit of the opposite. I think an earnout should always be an opportunity to make more money. So if you know your business, you know it's a genuine business, you know what it's capable of, you should go for an earnout. And you should go to maximize an earnout, because the guys, I know the big guys who want to buy businesses, they are not there to destroy businesses. No matter what anyone says in the industry, they're not there to destroy businesses. They are there to grow, to make more profit, and to do better. That's what it is. And I was there. I can promise you my intention was always the positive intention, not the negative intention. So if you can work with them and you can, still hold your business in a manner of speaking and drive it to the best of its ability for an earn-out purpose, it's 100% to your benefit, like 100%. And I think people lose sight of that because they go, oh, I don't control my business anymore, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes a negative thing. Whereas, it can really be a positive thing. So, and in all honesty, it's part of a deal. And it's something you really got to get to grips with. So if you want to do a deal, the guys, they're not going to do a deal with you without this. Yes. So you really need to have it clear in your mind. And I think probably at the same time, you need to, if you're going to market, you need to have a number that you're comfortable with. Yeah. Because you don't have to tell anyone that number, but you should have a number.
Yeah. Well, and that earnout can also, particularly for some of us who have been in the industry for a little while, that earnout can be actually really quite useful because you should really become an asset to that business that's acquiring you. And then all of a sudden you've got hopefully all these resources at your fingertips, and your ability to grow what you've had should really, no bounds. And so if you can actually, work that into a deal, then that's got to be a positive thing.
Yeah, correct. I agree 100%. And I know there's certainly frustrations because the businesses are different. Everyone's different. But that means you also have to adapt. So you have to be part of the solution as opposed to just being part, against it. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, actually.
Well, it's a bit like investing in yourself because, everyone's going to come to that table and want as much as they possibly can up front. But by joining forces, shared resources, and having a good go in that couple of years. And you and I know some very successful, not just the previous company that you work for, but a number of the larger businesses. I've seen some really successful acquisitions, but also from an individually lucrative process for people to sell and have a good earnout. And some of my colleagues of 10, 20 and 30 years in this industry are still working for the company that bought their business, 5, 10 and 15 years ago. So it actually can be like a, dare I say it, marriage made in heaven. It isn't always, as you know.
It isn't always, but I think it's a two-way street. In those circumstances. So.
Well, and retirement is going to come knocking at some point. So it's obviously one to make sure it works. Now, you and I have talked about different businesses over the years. I mean, is there any sort of confidential case studies or ideas that you can share, or is it something that we need to not do so?
Oh, look, I mean, I can't talk about my people I work with. I think that's against confidentiality. I mean, I think, look, the industry talks. When I bought certain businesses, I heard numbers that I just laughed at. What people were talking about, and this one made X millions of dollars, and look, I was there. I was just like, no, you didn't. But an interesting one for me was probably, there's been a recent one, a sizable one. I wasn't involved. I do personally have connections with certain people in the industry, and I was told, by them that the owner was given everything that he asked for, and as soon as that springs to mind, you're not asking the right things. So that's how I saw it, and I never said anything to them, and someone got the deal done, which is great. And then I've recently heard where the price range was, and honestly I think it's cheap. So it makes sense now what I heard. People saying he was given, or they were willing to give him everything he asked for because someone didn't value it properly. Is my opinion.
Well, it's an interesting time right now, obviously because of COVID. And I would almost think that there's a lot of companies that are thriving, and equally so, some businesses that are, in a stunning low point of their life or career. And so, it'll be interesting. The whole mergers and acquisitions process in the coming years will be quite dynamic because, from a COVID compliance perspective, some of the larger businesses are truly excelling in some areas, that is. And so, their ability to maintain their profitability gives them an opportunity to swallow up some of the smaller players, but hopefully in doing so, does so in a great, a great business deal. So before we finish up, I've got a lot of, and I've got a couple of questions here, so we'll get to those in a moment. But sure. Before we finish up, we've got some businesses here that I've known of for a long time. And not to say that they're all interested in selling their business, but obviously what I'd like to ask is that how would you, help businesses that are wanting to reach that desired endpoint in terms of, obviously not right now, but how can you help them get to some of these processes, 1, 3 or 5 months or 1, 3 or 5 years down the track?
Yeah, look, I mean, thanks for that. That's a great opportunity for me. I've had many calls over the last couple of years since I changed careers. A lot of them actually just asking me what my business is worth. They just want a number. But then I've had people that are genuinely, what do I do with my business? And I think that's probably the most important question. So, a guy that phoned me, I'll never forget him, and I think we still keep in touch. He said to me, Andrew, call it 40. My business is X. I got this, Y. And I said to him, but why would you sell? I said, you're 40 years old. You're going to make this much money probably at best. What are you going to do with your life? And he kind of sat back and went, what do you mean? Okay. And you're supposed to be selling my business. I said to him, but you'd be stupid to sell. You've got a great business, grow the hell out of it. You know what I mean? Like focus your mindset from, getting out and that, as opposed to how can I make this bigger, better? So when I do want to sell, I've got something that's much more tangible to sell. So my and I do kind of those things for free, so to speak, because those that know me know I'm kind of an honest person and really,
and it's great handy advice. So, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's and to be honest, there's also people really regional, very small. I really cannot help you there. I'll be honest with you. It is so hard to sell those businesses. And I'll tell you honestly now, you've got to look for the guy, the big guys are not interested in buying it. You've got to look for one of your local guys, work with them and try to come up with a deal, because there's no point in paying me. There's no point in trying to go to market with that. It's so hard to sell a really small business in a small town. They're not easy. So I'm more than happy to help, but I'm just being open and honest with people. I think from the flip side, then, if you do have a business to sell, it's like, how do you sell your house? You want to present the best picture for your house. You want to make it clean, and then you want to go to market with the nicest possible and professional manner. You don't want to be slipping P&Ls under the door of the likes of me, because then you're really telling me I can take advantage of you. So
I'll write that down. All right.
Yeah. So I think the key is really, and that's where I step in. I take people through preparing for it, so making sure we're presenting the right level of information to the right people, and then I work with them through the due diligence phase. Helping them understand why people ask these questions. Why is this going on for so long? Why is that important? I've been through, with working with their lawyers to make sure we get a genuine understanding. Because you can. Like, I think, one of the deals, someone was asking, a lawyer wanted something that had no eventuality, and you're kind of going, but, this business, you're the best person to know this business. Has it ever happened, or will it ever happen? And the guy goes, no. So I said, well, what are you arguing about then? And those are the kind of things that you need to get over the hurdle to get a deal done at the end of the day. And once you have a deal done, I don't actually just take my little fee and run away. I kind of, I'm still working with some of my clients so that they get their earn out, they're getting P&Ls. How do they understand what those P&Ls mean for them in the big corporate world, so to speak? Yeah. And I make sure that he understands, or they understand, that the money is still safe, so to speak, as long as you keep doing your job and you keep working with these guys to be successful, because they wanted to be successful. So I do a bit of a mixture, so to speak.
Okay. I've got a question in a second about that very topic, so I'll get to that in a sec. But the interesting thing is, you've basically been, over this last decade or so, involved in the buying and selling of businesses. And I would actually say that the financial function of a business, and particularly for most business owners, because they've maybe come through the ranks of pest control or in sales or whatever it might be, you'd often find that the financial function of their business would be that business owner's weakness. And so having someone, you know, from that experience, come in and look at that process and take them through the steps, you know, it's what we all need. It's what I need. We'll do that one day. Okay. Question wise, and this is sort of about the last sort of point that you made. I'll try and read this out because it's actually quite long, and I just want to make sure I get it right. So I guess what happens what's the recourse for the seller, I think, is what we're trying to achieve here. So what happens when you come up with an upfront purchase, then with an earnout, and then for whatever reason, the purchaser has poor customer service or handled your business poorly, or there's been functions go wrong where clients have lost. I think we can actually look at it from that perspective there. Yeah. Clients are lost, and therefore doesn't agree to pay that earnout because the business has declined. Do you have any recourse? And I guess probably what involvement should you have had to ensure that didn't happen? And, you know, are there basically buyer bad practices that, you know, should have been looked at through the processes?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a tough one and a genuine question. I know my instances. So when I've been in the seat and we've effed it up,
yeah,
we've owned up to that and we've paid earnouts. So I have been in that circumstance, and I know that within the business that I ran, we've made mistakes, and we honored that. Now, that's not to say your circumstances is the same. I think the challenge with that is to be on top of it as quickly as possible. So you know, part of an earnout is making sure you get sufficient reporting, so sufficient access to information, and then attending to customer challenges. Because customers, if it's a smaller business or one-man, two-man operation, they know you, they love you, they like you. You shouldn't go away. You know, that's what that year is so important. Even if, honestly, like even if you got on your U to service them yourself, it's for your benefit. If you think about making $100,000 when you own the business and you probably earn 20% of that, so you earn 20 grand, your earnout could be that $100,000. So if, you know, you got to think of the mindset, and that's where I try to help people understand. You got to think of the mindset that an earnout multiple is much better than a salary or a profit that you used to earn. Which means sometimes you do have to get dirty and make sure you protect what's yours.
Yeah.
In saying that, look, I understand you don't necessarily have control over the staff servicing, and that can be a challenge. But again, that, you know, it's your personal approach, and I have to stress, probably within the right manner, because obviously there's a lot of personalities in the industry, and that also, when you bring personalities, makes it difficult. So it's, when I say it's you're trying to, somehow you've got to suck it to work with people to get the right outcome for yourself, and that's a shit thing to do. So
yeah, and the whole when you're integrating your smaller business into somebody else's larger business, you're sharing each other's positives, but you're also sharing each other's problems, and so then trying to work through getting existing clients onto new account management systems, or to, you know, whether it be HACCP systems or barcoding or whatever it might be, you know, and all of a sudden you're sharing a new form of technology into the larger business, or vice versa. There's a purpose for the purchase to take place in the first place, but then trying to bring the marriage together literally can really work, and we've seen it 100 times, but we've also seen the disasters. And that question, thanks for that, could be exactly that. Okay. All right. Well, look, I haven't got any more questions, but I want to thank everyone for being here. Any other thoughts, Andrew, that might help those that are here to help achieve their goals, essentially?
No, like I said, I mean, I'll give myself a pun. Look, I'm open to anyone contacting me, even if it's just to have a chat. I've taken many calls. Most are not my clients, just to help them through understanding it. And you know, a lot of them, I do say to them, I can't necessarily help you because sometimes you are too small, and it doesn't really work. But, you know, I think from my side, where I try to learn is from the American market. They're much more open to communicating on this. And the more people share, and that's what I try to do with this business, is the more people share within the industry on M&A, the better it will be for everyone. Yeah. Because if you are small and isolated in your small town, I'm only picking on that, or even if you're smaller than the biggest Sydney, and it's really not easy to sell. But if you know your mates and you trust them and you're of an equal standard, the two of you are bigger, better, stronger together than you standing on your own. So you got to kind of change a bit of mindset in that regard. And I think the Americans do it really well. They share a lot of information on M&A, so people know where they stand, and it's fantastic, actually.
Okay. Tremendous. Well, look, just to finish up before we do, so we've got a presentation and some notes, maybe even the transcript of just our discussion. I'll package that up into an email and share that with everyone that's registered today. But essentially, I want to thank everyone that's here. I've got a lot of friends in our group here that some of them I've known for many, many years. So I really appreciate you coming to listen to the discussion today. I also want to just say thanks for everyone that's got involved in these webinars and in our interviews, because I think it's just a tremendous way to share. Admittedly, while some of us are working through lockdown, or some of us, depending on what part of the country you're in, are not working through lockdown. So any way we can share ideas to pass the time, learn as we go, and potentially grow our businesses from that. Well, I think this is a great way to do it. But Andrew, it's been a few years since we saw each other. I think we talked about mergers and acquisitions at a conference that you and I were both speaking at. And that's actually, that discussion is what sort of led me to drag you away from your cafe and so on and be here today. So I just want to say thanks very much for being involved. And I'm sure we'll catch up in person one of these days, and could be in the next couple of years, the way COVID is treating us all at the moment. But anyway, thanks, Andrew, and thanks everyone for being here. And we'll see you at our coming webinars. Okay, all the best.
No worries. Thanks, Peter.